and gentlemen, it's time for Big Will Spotlight. We're going to discuss movies the Oscars don't care about. We're going to discuss movies that you care about. So go ahead, get yourself something to eat. Get yourself something to drink. Sit back and relax with your popcorn and your date as we go to Big Will Spotlight with your hosts, Big Will, Dr. Quack, and the important one, Mr. Mayhem.
All right, everybody, welcome back to another edition of Big Will Spotlight. I'm your host, Big Will.
And I'm the important one, Mr. Mayhem, and because we're talking about Star Trek, which is full of hand symbols and hand signals, give it up for the Big Will. So, as you heard, don't worry, we did Star Wars, kind of an overview, not a direct analysis of it. We did kind of an overview. This week we're doing Star Trek, kind of again the initial overview, so we can start getting people talking about what we're going to do the next show, the comparison between Star Wars and Star Trek. Which one was better?
I wasn't going to go with the whole better thing, but just to get a spark conversation going with the people out there.
Well, if you tell Star Wars people that Star Trek is better, they'll start talking.
They're made from the same company. Immersion works. They did both on Star Trek and Star Wars, especially the newer versions of it and everything like that. Like we pointed out, it's just to spark discussions, get the people involved, and we've covered Star Wars, and not to completely lie, I'm not a true Trekkie. I know I've seen all the movies, and couldn't say I've seen all of the series, though.
I'm not a Trekkie either. I'm a Star Trek fan. Like Star Wars, I would not be a Star Wars devotee. I don't go to conventions dressed up as a Wookiee or dressed up as a Jedi. I don't do the same thing for Star Trek, but I do enjoy the movies, and I enjoy the original series and The Next Generation.
Right. So we're going to start this off. Yes, we're going to cover Star Trek, of course. So, hey, how many of y'all out there knew that the original Star Trek series was only 3 seasons? Okay.
I'm sure a lot of other people out there raise their hand as well.
They may have, but, that's why I said, I'm not a true Trekkie. I just found this out, doing research on all this. I mean, there were 6 Enterprises.
Well, the Star Trek, the original 1701, the Enterprise.
Yes.
Then there was A.
Blown up. Yep.
Yep. Then there was A. There was B, which has only ever been talked about. It's never actually been seen, except in art.
I thought B was in the later. Yes, B was in the later Star Trek movies. C is the one that was only in one episode of the Next Generation.
That's right. Then there was D, which is the basis of Next Generation.
Yes.
And E, which was what happened later on in the movies.
Later on in the movies, they got rid of the neck, pretty much, is what happened.
So we're going to be talking about mostly the movies. We will talk some about the stories and the shows because they do pair in. Prime example is when we're talking about Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan. That was a concept based upon one of the television shows from the original series.
Yes. So, quick overview of the movies, and then we'll talk a little bit more about which ones were the favorites and stuff, so on and so forth. First one, they went on a search for what was making this cloud come at Earth or whatever. They go out and they find what's left of one of the Voyager satellites that we sent out into deep space to see what's out there. And it just ended up becoming V'ger.
Correct.
Okay.
And that's the one that's much maligned, the least seen, but it's one of the more interesting ones. Yes. Interesting side note here, for those of you that have seen 2001: A Space Odyssey, the idea of the Star Trek, the motion picture, the original first movie, was that epic, grand, long storytelling movie that 2001 is, and what Star Trek the Motion Picture was.
Got sucked into a black hole.
Correct.
All right. 2, of course, Wrath of Khan. Everybody knows that one.
That's a great one. That's where they introduced the red uniforms that were known commonly throughout the movie series of the Kirk movies with the red with the white side that held their rank on there, which is a really sharp looking uniform. It's often worn at conventions.
Yes, the red shirts are the ones that are going to disappear.
No, not the red shirts, the maroon uniforms. The red shirts were from the original series.
Ah, gotcha. Okay. So we were having two different conversations.
It's okay. All right, there's a lot to talk about with Star Trek.
Oh, yeah, I mean, in that movie, well, we're going to come back to all that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Star Trek 3, The Search for Spock.
They go find Spock.
Yeah, spoiler alert, Spock dies in 2 and he comes back to life in 3. So they were out finding him because they had to search for him to bring him back so they could give back his memories.
4, they have to go and find whales with a specific whale song to broadcast to an alien ship to make them go away.
Correct. That one's actually one of the better ones as we keep going into.
The best one.
I'm going to tell you that kind of when you do Star Trek movies, the big general rule is the even-numbered movies tend to be good, and the odd-numbered movies are hit and miss. As we continue on. But to go into that, because we just finished Star Wars 4, The Voyage, or Star Trek 4, The Voyage Home, Star Trek 5, The Final Voyage, they think they find God.
Not quite, but
that's kind of the presentness of that.
Stole my notes.
Well, here, have a pen, too. I'll have little mayhem.
There you go.
All right. 6?
6 was a good one about them escaping the prison on the...
That's right. The Undiscovered Country, Star Trek 6, and it's the last one with all of the original cast from the original series.
Yes. And then we got to move on into Generations.
Correct. Star Trek Generations starts out with Kirk in the beginning, and it sees Kirk's death officially at the end of the movie. Sorry again, spoilers. This whole thing is supposed to be a spoiler.
Make sure you're supposed to go watch it. But then it moves on to just basically a really, really, really long episode of The Next Generation.
Yeah, First Contact is the Borg go back in time and assimilate Earth, so they have to go back and they end up meeting the person that first created warp drive, Zefram Cochrane. Played very well by James Cromwell in the movie.
And then you got to move on to Insurrection, which
Insurrection is kind of an oddball. It is the truest definition of a long Star Trek: The Next Generation episode.
Yeah. Basically, Data, well, not just Data, they find a planet that they're trying to help advance civilization.
Well, they're studying it, and there's 2 species. One of them, they live here, and because of the atmosphere, they don't age, and the other people didn't like living the purest life, so they left, and now they use technology to try and keep themselves young, and they look like mummies.
Yeah.
So it's moving on. Moving on to the last one of the Star Trek: The Next Generation series, which is Nemesis.
Nemesis was actually pretty good. I mean, you got Picard, and they cloned him, basically, and it was Picard versus Picard.
So it's an interesting battle of how do you battle yourself when you know yourself, which is a very interesting concept. Nemesis, I think there was some things about it that weren't done great, but the concept is a very, very interesting concept.
It was very good. And then we got to move on to the newer ones that J.J. Abrams ended up taking over and directing and came out with Star Trek.
See, and J.J. Abrams did 2 of the final 3 movies in the Star Wars. So Star Wars, Star Trek, let's get all together here. As Sulu said, we need to fight the Twilight series.
Fight the Twilight series, yes. Yeah, I mean, they're kind of done by the same company. So, I mean, get behind both of them. Both good concepts and everything like that. We're just, like I say, sparking discussion for future episodes.
There you go.
But, yeah, we start into the Star Trek by itself named movie, which got like Chris Pine and stuff like that.
Right, and that one's technically supposed to be a prequel to the original series because we see more of Captain Pike coming out, who he was in the first episode. He was already destroyed. He was living in a wheelchair that basically kept him alive. He could only communicate by beeping once for yes and twice for no. So this is the little prequel to all of that, where we find out how Kirk became the captain of the Enterprise and going through the Academy.
It's not truly a prequel. It's kind of an alternate universe. Also,
yeah, that's probably a better way to put it. Probably a better way to put it.
But yes, you get to find out more about how Kirk ended up becoming who he is and why he does things the way he does.
And we're going to take a second for a commercial. And we're back. Thank you to Crystal Infinity for taking good care of us. All your crystal needs, visit Crystal Infinity.
Crystal Infinity. So,
as we were saying,
we got to finish up with these other two Star Trek movies, and then we're going to, like I say, kind of pick which ones we like the most out of them, okay? Because like I said, we just did Star Trek, so now we go into Star Trek Into Darkness. And again, it's new take on old ideas and everything like that. More CGI. They just took these last three movies and they didn't just strictly follow one character. They were following everybody that was on the crew, pretty much.
On the
helm.
On the helm, okay. And the bridge.
Yes, the bridge. There it is. So it wasn't just
that's
Kirk and Spock.
That's kind of been the knockoff for people that don't like the Star Trek series, the original series. The Next Generation, they did focus on some other characters they built on the Next Generation show. There'd be episodes focused on Data, or focused on Commander Riker, or focused on Deanna Troi. Star Trek, the original one, was always about Kirk, and a lot of people found that to be a little annoying.
A little bit.
I'm okay with it, but I see why the other people who did not like it for that reason, I can understand why, and it does make a valid point.
So, we've pretty much covered all of them. I mean,
yes, I can name the last one, Star Trek Beyond. But, I mean, like I pointed out, it became a lot more action-based and covering more people, doing different things instead of following one straight corridor to get to where they need to get. So, we'll just break down what we felt were some of the greater of the movies and everything like that.
All right.
I'll start off. I thought 4 was actually the best one.
4 is a great one. It really is.
Now, that's not trying to knock off any of the newer ones and everything like that. It's just, if I were to have to sit down and pick a Star Trek movie to watch over and over and over again, it would be 4. Go ahead.
I would agree with 4. I'm actually a fan of 2, The Wrath of Khan, because that's the one I felt Kirk was most vulnerable. If you always watch the shows, he's always vulnerable for like a minute. This one, he was vulnerable for half the movie. And this is where they put him against somebody who was technically superior in a lot of ways, and Kirk had to actually rely on other people. So I thought it was great. But 2 and 4 for me, they're side by side. Some days I like the humor a little bit more on 4 when they go back into the 1980s Earth and they don't swear, and they got somebody that calls them a dumbass, and Kirk comes back, well, double dumbass on you. You know, it's kind of funny to watch them do that, or watching Spock, the hell I didn't, the hell I don't. And that's so that's a little bit funnier. It's not quite as action-based, but the story is far more thought-provoking than people give it credit for.
Yes, I liked 4 and then 2.
Then I would just sit there and pretty much pick the newer ones with Chris Pine and Zachary Quintero and
Zoe Saldana.
I have to sit and actually watch those. I haven't actually sat and watched those. Sorry, one of the big knocks on me is that I'm kind of behind on the movie scene. But I think after 4 and 2, the next one really for me that's a good one, I'm going to take some heat for it. I actually like Generations as the next best movie. The one where Kirk dies at the end. Because that one is interesting on the standpoint of going into the Nexus and does having all of your dreams fulfilled and living the perfect life, is that actually what everybody wants? And that was what that one's trying to explore. I thought it was an interesting take.
Interesting take. Okay. Just, I don't know.
Okay. I mean, I'm not saying I didn't like all of the movies. I'm just saying, I just like some better than others. Same thing with Star Wars. You have your favorites, but you did go through and watch them.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we've got a breakdown of it and everything like that. Like I say, this is supposed to spark up some conversations. Please give us some comments. Yes. Like it, share it, get it out there.
And when we get ready on our next show to analyze which movie was better, which movie series, we're not doing individual movies, which movie series was better in the overall abstract, we're going to have a special guest on here that's going to help us break them down.
Well, thank you.
We're going to be bringing in an expert on Star Wars.
Star Wars, all right. Anybody out there want to claim to be an actual Trekkie, Trekker, whatever one you actually prefer, because they do have numerous names for them. If you want to step forward, contact us. Hey, we can include you too.
We would love to have other people who are more expert than we are. While we are fans, we are not experts.
Not an expert.
So,
all right, guys, we are going to cut it off here. We would love to talk more and more and more about these movies, but like I pointed out, we're trying to spark up conversations with y'all. Please get in here, get some comments in, so that way we have something more than just what did you like about the movie for the next one.
And I want to offer a little bit of challenge. If there's anybody out there who says Star Trek V is your favorite movie, please leave your name so we know where to send the net to pick you up.
All right, guys. We're going to catch you later. Thank you.